Fish fry is f***ing good, and I want to talk about it.
It's fish fry time!
Oh my gosh, look at that.
We mix our batter with PBR so it's super light and fluffy.
The side dishes are classic. Hash brown-like potato cake, applesauce, coleslaw, rye bread.
It's the reason we got Tums in our kitchen, and our bathrooms, and under our pillows. You can think.
Fish and fish fry were synonymous with religion for centuries as a way to honor Jesus' death. Whether it was Catholics, Jews, or eventually Protestants, fish became a symbol of piety. Fish fry was invented on the Iberian Peninsula, and once it did, it caught on like wildfire, making a global impact for well over 500 years. But in one place, fish fry arguably became even more than that. A cultural institution of sorts, transcending its religion to baptize about 6 million people into a new era of the meal. This is the story of how Catholicism, Prohibition, and a shitload of lakes made fish fry an icon of Wisconsin. Hi, my name is Nathan Denzine, and I'm a reporter with like 7 awards, so you can trust me. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer before we jump into this. I am not Catholic. I have never been Catholic. When I inevitably screw something up, I'm going to need all you smart people down in the comments to help me out. I also want to go over a couple of definitions for all my non-religious people out there. Lent is the 40 days that Jesus spent in the desert. For canon law, we're going to define it for this video as Catholic law. So, according to sacred tradition, the Catholic Church was founded by Jesus Christ while he was still alive. And after he was crucified and died, ideas started to spring up pretty quickly about how to honor his death.
My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my...
Christians started fasting on Friday as early as the 1st century to start honoring his death. The idea being that Jesus gave his life for us, so on the day of the week that he died, we would not eat the animals that give their lives for us.
He's a homie MCJC, you see. He's an honest, caring, peace-loving...
But fish are fine to eat, and so are any other reptiles, because if you think about it, they're not even really animals, right? Sometime in the 5th century, Socrates of Constantinople not the cool Greek one, wrote that Christians should abstain from red meat during the 40 days of Lent. And that sort of mention by a church leader or historian kind of cements that thing into the tradition of the church going forward. Similarly, sometime after his election in 590, Pope Gregory I was recorded as saying that not eating red meat on Fridays was customary, and that mention was eventually used as justification to write the Friday abstaining from red meat thing into canon law. That made fish a very popular dish. Want to make a little side note here.
I'm freestyling.
Because there's a very prevalent and popular rumor that a medieval pope around this time actually made it law that you had to eat fish on Fridays in order to prop up a failing fish market. But according to NPR, there's not a lot of evidence that that's actually true.
You Trust Me loves public media.
In fact, in 1509, when King Henry VIII took power, fish were a critical part of England's economy. But, alas, King Henry hated his wife so much that he decided to separate his entire country from the Catholic Church just so that he could get a divorce. The newly founded Church of England started to shun a lot of Catholic practices, and fish were caught up in the crossfire. For most of King Henry VIII's reign, fish was a political statement, and it basically disappeared from diets during this time. But when his son, Edward VI, took the throne, the domestic fishing market was doing so poorly that he actually did reinstate fast-only days so that the fishermen could get themselves back up on their feet. Fish fry was allegedly born on the Iberian Peninsula somewhere around the year 1000. The Jews who were living there had their own culinary practices, especially on Shabbat, the day where they're really not allowed to do a whole lot, especially not cook. So they would prepare food on Friday afternoon that could survive the next 24 hours and be eaten at any time, which is not an easy task somewhere as hot as Spain. One of the meals that they would prepare for Shabbat was haddock that was fried in either a coat of matzo or flour, which preserved the fish decently enough so that they could eat it the next day and it wouldn't taste terrible. In other words, it was fish fry.
When they float, they're ready for your throat. Hot!
So at this point, we have 3 major religions, Catholicism, Protestants, and Jewish people, all eating fish at least one day of the week.
That's a lot of fish.
By the late 14th century, Jews in the Iberian Peninsula started to be persecuted, and in 1478, the Spanish went a little bit Nazi and started the Spanish Inquisition. Most of the Jews who were living in Spain fled to Portugal, and then Portugal started their own Inquisition, and from there, Jewish people really spread all over the world. Wherever they went, they brought fish fry with them, and it didn't take long for Europe to get hooked. Hell, give a British person anything with 3 spices and they'll colonize your entire country. By the time immigrants reached America to colonize, no matter what their background or their religion, they brought a strong culture of fish fry with them. Wisconsin was named a state in 1848 with a whole bunch of German Catholic immigrants who still would fast every single Friday in accordance with Catholic law. Ground zero for fish fry in Wisconsin is widely agreed to be Jones Island in Milwaukee. Today, Jones Island is home to a lot of giant shipping vessels, which is actually the topic of another video I want to do at some point. But in the 1860s and 70s, it was home to a family of fishermen. The Kashubs were Milwaukee's first real fishing family, and they decided that local taverns would be a great place to sell their extra catch. The fish was cheap and delicious, and the meal caught on quickly as the rest of Wisconsin scrambled out to their local lake to go catch some walleye to fry up.
Oh, she's a fish! Whoa!
So that's really how the fish fry tradition in Wisconsin started, but it really took an act of government to cement it in our ethos. As I said in my last video, all Wisconsinites are alcoholics. We know it's a problem. I don't need to hear about it in the comments. So when Prohibition was instituted nationwide, Wisconsin found ways to innovate. A number of establishments started to pop up that gained a reputation as underground speakeasies that would also sell you a meal above board. Those establishments went on to be known as supper clubs, and supper clubs are essentially restaurants that specialize in atmosphere and price.
It's an experience rather than just going to get something to eat.
Medium rare, medium rare.
I cannot possibly cover every aspect of supper clubs here. In fact, they also deserve their own video. But for now, know that they were on the cutting edge of getting Wisconsinites alcohol in the 1920s. Supper club speakeasies were so popular that if you were to ask a regular of one of these places, you'll probably hear, "You know Al Capone came here to drink once?" Really? Yeah. What's your source? And while the hard liquor was great at getting Capone's crowd through the doors, there were still a number of nice families who wanted to get a beer with their meal. So supper clubs started to serve fish fry all day on Fridays with a side of fries, coleslaw, and rye bread. And they would sell it at a simply absurd price. I'm talking like you go to your favorite sandwich shop and your meal is suddenly $10 cheaper absurd.
3 bags of Tostito scoops.
There was a special on these tonight. 3 for 1.
3 for 1.
Yep.
How can that be profitable for Frito-Lay?
These corporations, I don't know what they're doing.
Well, if you ordered a beer-battered fish fry from one of these places, and your mouth just happened to dry out from all the salty foods that you were consuming, then it would be on the restaurant owner to provide you a drink, right? You see where I'm going with this. With a little wink and a nod, supper clubs started to sell a meal of fish fry with a side of secret beer. And since the beer wasn't technically being sold to the patrons, it skirted right around the Prohibition laws. Historians have said that it's this deal that started in Milwaukee and spread throughout the state that really cemented Friday fish fry as a tradition in Wisconsin. Today, the tradition is so ingrained in our state that our governor, Tony Evers, actually makes an official proclamation every single year naming one Friday the official Friday Fish Fry Day. And no, that day is never during Lent. Now, Wisconsin was absolutely not the only state with a Friday night fish fry or even supper clubs. Buffalo area especially, I'm looking at you. But as the years wore on, Catholic rules started to be relaxed. In the 1960s, Pope John XIII said that you could substitute that no meat on Fridays rule with something else. So, in much of the rest of the country, fish fry became a Lenten tradition and not a year-round occurrence. In much of the country today, you're not likely to be able to find a fresh fish fry on a Friday night like you would have been 60 years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, during Lent, the Northeast, South, and Midwest all have extremely strong Friday fish fry traditions. But for the rest of the year, Wisconsin really stands out. Yeah, sure, you can go to any chain restaurant and get a fish fry on Friday, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a fish fry that was freshly caught at least, that week. fried in homemade batter with coleslaw that was made freshly that morning. Fish fry that you learn about because of a sign outside of the restaurant. Fish fry from a supper club. Hi again, everybody. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support so much. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If you feel so compelled, you can go ahead and leave a comment down below. I appreciate all the people who have joined over the last couple months. It's been really a cool thing to experience. If there's any question that you've ever had that you want answered, go ahead and leave it down in the comments below. It does not have to be Wisconsin related. It certainly can be. I think in my next video, I'm going to try to branch out a little bit, but maybe I'll circle back to a couple Wisconsin things in the future. So yeah, that's all I got for you. See you next month.